Welcome to the Black Men Think podcast. If this is your first time here, know that the views and opinions expressed by the Black Men Think podcast are those of the Black Men Think podcast and not the individual members. With that being said, we're about to be unapologetic.
All for me.
Undeniably
Yeah,
black.
you and I.
Enjoy.
It's all good, though. We'll make it work. But look, man, Black Man Think podcast. Welcome to the Black Man podcast, where we elevate our black man, because black man be out here thinking. Sip of the week. Want to get you call it, Mo?
Man, I guess so. I guess I will. Let's see. What is this? Never had it. This is Koa de Jima.
Oh.
Koa de Jima.
Sounds fancy.
I like how I said right there. Say that again, Torri.
Koa de Jima.
Yeah, that's what.
That
You
sounds
got
real
whiffle
fancy.
with it.
Yeah, it sounded real fancy.
It's a repo. It's a repo.
Okay. Cool. All right.
Cheers, fellas.
Salute. Tap it. Arriba. I don't know what they be doing.
Yeah. No, that's straight.
Oh yeah, that's not bad.
I ain't mad at that at all. But yeah, man. So coming off of our last episode, it's a great episode. Y'all should make sure y'all go and check out our last episode. Mo and I, we had a conversation built around Kev on stage and his wife. Their conversation at the dinner table, basically talking about how quick women can be on or off when it comes to like sex, right? I do want y'all to know I got in trouble for that conversation.
I was going to ask you.
I just say that probably didn't go over
I was
well.
going to ask you.
I mean, it seemed like everything was fine until tonight.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that one. I mean.
Yeah. No, but I mean, all tongue in cheek, not really got in trouble, but she expressed how it made her feel. And, I just had to eat that and just left it at that. But it does further to go to say, like, men are for Mars, women are for Venus, or however that saying go.
Speaking of eat that, how are you guys dealing with, before we dive into other topics tonight, how do you guys deal with being direct about something that you know could potentially hurt them?
I ain't gonna lie, I thought you was going in a different direction after last week's conversation when he said, my brother said he just got in trouble. We ain't gonna go that direction.
But you know something? I'll say this. I think it not even trouble. I think it's just healthy conversation because it opens up doors. I knew what I was doing. Like I invited it. I said, "Hey, babe, you should listen to the last episode." Like I know she don't listen to the podcast like that, so I invited it in intentionally because I wanted her to hear those thoughts. I wanted to get her opinion on those thoughts, and it is what it is, right? But I don't talk about anything.
Right.
But that I mean, I think it really depends on the conversation. Number one, right? Like direct about something that gonna cause conflict or cause
It can either cause conflict or that. Say that your wife or your significant other is in a vulnerable spot.
Right.
We're supposed to be there to support them and build them up. But in reality, the truth
right
might ding or sting a little bit.
Yeah, normally it does.
yeah.
And so how do you guys handle that situation? Because we have to be sensitive to their vulnerability and making sure that we're there to support them. But at the same time,
I think a lot of it comes through, all of this comes through wisdom and time, because I think that, and going on both sides, how you respond in year 5 with no kids is completely different how you're responding in year 12
facts
with kids, right? And not even to make it like a kid scenario, but just being honest, like we all evolve and change in our marriages, right? Like we are not who we were in 02. Yes, it is what it is. Right? Like we are completely different. There are some things that are similar, but for the most part, we're completely different from how we were in 02. So I think, man, you gotta figure out, is the juice worth the squeeze? Like if it's really worth going there, you know what I'm saying? Because I can say personally, sometimes it ain't worth it. And what I mean by that is just like, man, I already know what it's gonna do. And like, do I want to have to go through that? And part of that could be my fault. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not trying to exclude myself from it.
Right.
But I think sometimes it's just like, which conversation is worth having?
Correct.
You know what I'm saying? And I think all conversations got to happen at some point. But like, do I want tension for the next 2 or 3 days conversation? Or do I want like, you know what I'm saying? Like, all right, cool. We can like ease our way there.
Right.
So I think that depends on the person. It depends on the subject at hand, bro. Like, but tough conversations can be very hard in marriages, bro, because when you're in like a relationship or like a friendship, you can go the other way. Mm-hmm. So like we can have the tough conversation and then like, all right, I probably ain't got to see you for a week or two. Mm-hmm. When you married, you can have that tough conversation tonight and then you dealing with it for tomorrow, the day after that, the day after that,
the week after that,
the week after that. So yeah, bro, that's a slippery slope.
Yeah.
My rule of thumb, honestly, to what you were just saying is like, because there are times where I try to handle it just in my own head, right? Like I just try to reconcile myself and explain things off and whatnot. If I can't let it go, something got to be said, you know? Now, here's the caveat with that. There's 3 things. Timing, tone, and delivery. Yeah. If one of those are off, you don't know what you're going to get back, you know? And the problem with feeling like there's something that has to be said is like you feel like you got to say it now. And I'm wired where I'm like, nah, I got to get this out, you know? But I have learned over these years, I have to find the best way to word something for my wife. And it's not that I have to diminish the impact of what I'm trying to say, but I need to make sure that my emotions are in check. Because trust me, I will set the tone whether I'm trying to or not. If something that I say is off, if it comes off cross, if I come in too hot in a sense, it could get captured. And granted, I'm probably more even keeled, and/or I would say I have a steady increase in emotions, whereas it don't take much. Like my wife she'll go from 0 to 60. If the wrong thing is taken the wrong way, it's gonna go to another level. So there are times where I've learned like how to do stuff, and sometimes like there
just ain't the right way.
Sometimes the gloves are off, honestly.
Yeah,
you know. And granted, those moments don't continue as well as they could, even though I feel like I said what I need to say, blah, blah, blah. But then that just leaves more work to get through later. We got to come back and revisit. You know, we got to work back through some of the same issues that, granted, if I started right, or if she started right, or whoever kind of took us there, like, you know, we might have been able to deal with it in a moment. Because I'm a firm believer, no conversation should be too hard for a husband and wife. Like,
yeah, I feel that.
Like, seriously, like, why can't we talk about whatever it is? You know, now it might sting. Somebody might be taking the brunt force of, you might be the target in the conversation, depending on what the topic is. You might have stuff that you got to face that you don't feel like facing, ain't ready to face, not ready to own up to. But at the end of the day, there should be no subject that can't be on the table. And I think if you set that tone in your marriage, it's almost an expectation, like, and maybe that's how you enter the conversation. Like, all right, look, this is not going to be an easy conversation. I've even had to use a talking stick. Like, seriously, like,
wow.
Like, all right, when I'm holding this item, I need you to listen. I'll put it down when I finish, and vice versa. And now I have to sit and hear the response or hear whatever else comes out, because sometimes that's the only way we can get through it.
Man, that's
knowledge there.
That's knowledge. That's powerful too, bro. Like that. I mean, that's something you can't really. I think it takes maturity, number one, to get to that stage where you know, like, the triggers and knowing, like, okay, boom, we got to put something in between us so we can have this conversation.
Yep.
I think for me, bro, like, I'm still learning how to have tough conversations, if I'm being completely transparent.
I agree. 100%.
And I mean, we've had this conversation before, but I think a lot of it for me just comes with, I don't know if like I'm avoiding conflict or if it's like, because I know it's not a I don't care, but I don't know, sometimes I just be feeling indifferent about stuff, bro. Like some stuff don't feel. Forget it, because now I'm in my head.
No,
thinking
I get
about
what you
my
said, because
you
I
know?
think me and you are more so similar.
Yeah.
Like, it's not that we rather not deal with the conflict, but at the same time, it's like certain things to us is just it doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things. And
Yeah,
so,
bro.
You know, to us, it's like this. Okay, I gotta pay this. Oh well, let me do
It's-
it. It's now the conversation. It gotta be done. But our wives, on the other hand, it actually is. It's more, I should have been included in this. I should have still been able, we should have been talking about it. We should have had that type of stuff that's associated with it. That's just like, well, no, it got to get handled, so it's going to get handled.
So,
type thing.
perfect example based off of the conversation, our last conversation.
Yeah.
Wifey just said flat out, man, we should have had this conversation before you went on the podcast and had the conversation. I can't disagree with that.
True.
But my rebuttal was like, did you ever think about that maybe this was my way of inviting you into my world, into my thoughts? Maybe this is the way that I have to initiate these conversations.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Because I'm not like you. Like you ready to talk about.
Yeah.
That's
That
not
ain't-
me.
I don't-
That ain't me.
I don't hesitate.
You know what I'm saying? But that's just, that's
See,
not me.
I hesitate, think 3 times.
Right,
Go to sleep, take a nap, wake up,
Yeah,
still
yeah,
thinking
yeah,
about
yeah.
it. It still ain't came up with a solution.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And that's more so how I am, right? And like I said, I'm not even saying that my way is the right way. I'm definitely not saying that, but that's just how I am, right? And so my thought process of even telling my wife about like to listen was like, babe, I want you to hear this because this is how I feel in the moment.
Correct.
And then we can talk about it afterwards.
Correct.
I knew something was up because after she listened to the episode, like she didn't say nothing about it. So we just like went on about our day. Like I was like, oh, okay, yeah, all hell about to break loose, and probably about at some point because
Gotcha.
like it was no conversation like afterwards. So I was like, oh well, this ain't going the way that I thought it was gonna go. In my head, I was like, oh, you gonna hear it? We gonna talk about it? Like, oh, why you feel like that? Or like that was literally my thought process. Like this is the icebreaker to have the conversation about what we talked about.
Right.
And it didn't go that way. And
I think it's also sometimes because, you know, I think sometimes women expect things to go a certain way and it has to go this way. But, you know, one of the things, you know, is that there are multiple ways to come at things. And a lot of times people are like, no,
It's
it's
this.
this way.
Yeah.
You know, and when they see something else, is not necessarily that they think is wrong, but it's just like, why you do that? Well, because I'm me, you. And so my way of doing things is totally different than how you do things.
yeah, it's interesting, man. I mean, but you know, I think what's most important across the board is that both sides are willing to do the work,
Right.
regardless of how the work is being done. Like everybody's like trying to do the work in some capacity, and I think that's like that's the most important part, because it could be where it's just no work, no accountability, no nothing. It's just like, no, my way or the highway. And we all know, like, bro, that don't work. I mean, it may work periodically, but eventually something's gonna rear its head, man. And like y'all gonna have to have some type of common ground. But yeah.
Do y'all feel like there's like a safe space at home? Like, is there, and I mean, answer that only if you're comfortable, but you know, just, is there any topic that you don't feel like you can really dive into? Whether that's as a man, you know, as a father, like, is there stuff that you just feel like, I don't know if I can bring this one home?
You know, that's a great question,
That's a
bro.
good one. That's actually a good one.
I don't think there's nothing. I'll put it like this. I'm going to put it all on me. I think my wife is open to have any conversation that we can have. That whatever, no matter what. I think I probably hesitate to have conversations, right? And it's not even though I'm like worried about what you're gonna say, because like I'm not worried about what you're gonna say, but I don't know the reason why I hesitate. Like that's just an honest answer. Like I don't know why I hesitate to have conversation. Like it could be like fatigue, it could be fear, it could be a lot of things. I don't know. You know what I'm saying? But I know for a fact that my wife would like literally have any conversation.
I second JD, but I know mine is because in my head, I done had the conversation.
So you don't
already.
You don't Dr. Strange to play out all the scenarios.
I done got all the scenarios. I know the answer. I'm already at the end. And not to be fair to my wife, she ain't even been a part of the conversation. But I'd had like 15 conversations.
Hey, you know something?
Already.
You slick might be on to something, bro. Because I know I be in my head a lot. Yeah. Like I be in my head a lot. You know what I'm saying? So that's probably it. And I just don't know what that is. You know what I'm saying? Like, but
it took me a long time to realize that I'm having all these conversations in my head, which is causing me not to have the actual conversation with you a lot of the time.
Damn. So. You might have just put me on. Torri, you don't figure me out. You don't help me figure myself out.
Dog, that's because I finally figured myself out.
Because I'm assuming that happens because you have experienced something and you play it out because you feel like you know how it's going to turn out. Mm-hmm. Has it ever shocked you and like went the complete opposite?
Yeah. I would definitely say majority of the time it goes completely opposite.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. I'm definitely cognizant that it's more so me in my own head playing out all of these scenarios, and it's not my wife doing it. Because when we finally do have those conversations, even though now it turned out to be a blowout, because because if I would have came before I had these 10,000 conversations in my head, it probably would have been like easier. But yeah, they have definitely. Majority of the time, definitely turn out differently than how I played out. Sometimes I'm spot on, but so it's just I know it's me.
Yeah, I mean, I think it just takes some maturity and growth, bro. Like, and that, who knows, right? We might explore and find out in 10 years in therapy what the reasoning for it. You know what I'm saying? But, yeah, man, I will say this. I don't like that. I don't like to have conversations.
Mm-hmm. I agree. 100%.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't, like, sometimes it's kind of like, sometimes I wish that I can say exactly what's on my mind at the exact same time. Like, I wish I could do that.
I feel
sometimes.
that.
Yep. Like, yep. I mean, when you've ever met, well, we have people like that. Like, I think Brian is like a very, like, blunt person.
Chris,
very blunt person.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
Lasana
has, I wouldn't say he hesitates. I would say Lasana might be more of a framer. Like,
he'll get it out, but he's gonna, but like, and that's just our crew. But like, I know people who are more blunt than our crew.
Oh, I do too.
Like, who are just on some, like, they just say whatever.
Right.
And you got to deal with that. Like, you got to eat whatever I drop at you. You got to eat that because you asked me and I gave it to you just like flat out. If you upset at what I gave you, that's on you. You asked me. You shouldn't have asked me.
Yeah.
I can't do that.
Yeah.
And not saying, I don't want to say I can't do that. I don't do that. You know what I'm saying? But sometimes I wish that I was that type of person where it's just like, you ask me something. And I think it really, a lot of it has to do with like my deep care for people.
Bro, yep. I know exactly what you're saying.
Yep.
Because like I genuinely care how people feel.
Yep.
Like I genuinely care about people. You know what I'm saying? And so I know that there are some things that I could say that will completely make people crumble.
Yep.
And I can't have that on my heart. And I think that's where a lot of it comes from. Mm. But sometimes that may be a disservice to those people because sometimes those people may need that.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Right. And then we have to have that tough conversation down the line and find out like it is what it is. But, and I guess if you peel those layers back, it's just like you trying to save everybody. And that ain't your job.
And I think that goes, because I think you guys always heard me say that, words have meaning.
Yeah.
And so, you guys know that I'm very meticulous about the words that I say because I know that every word, somebody's going to get something from that word. And so I always try to find the perfect message. And so to your point, that causes me one to hesitate and think a lot and not to just say what's on my mind. Because sometimes I'm like y'all asking me to go, God dang. But I want to, like you said, but because I want to make sure that it's soft and that people actually can hear it and that it's received well.
I ain't gonna lie. Sometimes I want the opposite. Sometimes I feel like, and let me just frame it by saying I'm exactly like that, where I almost wish I had not even the filter. I wish I had the freedom to say whatever the heck I wanted to. I don't feel capable at times, you know?
Yeah.
Unless I'm angry enough
Yeah.
where I don't care anymore, but it takes a lot for me to get there.
Yeah.
Bingo.
And at the point where I get there, there's this boldness that comes out of me that's probably, unfortunately, for whoever that is, 9 times out of 10 is probably my wife. Because, you know, granted, I don't have that opportunity, you know, in other settings. Like, that's the person that you spend the most time with. They're going to see the best of you, the worst of you. But it feels justified. It feels like, oh, now you going to get it today.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not holding back today. Granted, of course, that doesn't work out the way you need it to,
Right.
you know, because it just creates another firestorm, you know. You speak out of character, you say things out of character, and granted, there's always a line that you don't cross, right? But at the end of the day, the way you deliver now put up a wall. Now it created even more of a gap when your message just got lost in everything else.
Right.
And now you got to start all over again at some point.
Yeah.
And apologize for all the other stuff. So, granted, there are times where I felt like people in general, like, you need to hear the truth. Boom. No matter how hard it is, no matter what it is, it needs to hit you so that it can change. And then I started, honestly, probably realizing, like, it's not my job to change you. Like sometimes I feel like we take that responsibility on. That's not even our work. Like, that's God's work. You know, like, God got to deal with you just like he got to deal with me. You know, and in marriage, man, like, that is unfortunately what I see a lot of men struggle with. It's our pride, it's our masculinity, it's our what we probably saw as some traditional role where we have to be the quote unquote put our foot down. It's what we saw. It's what we saw in the generation before us too, right?
Right.
So unfortunately, that does not bode well for our generation of wives, our generation of women. And below, and those who are coming up under them, our daughters, like, because granted, honestly, I don't want somebody talking to my daughter like she is to report to him.
Right.
You know, like, it ain't like, treat her like a queen. Treat her like an equal. You know, so some of that is just like we got to unprogram generations of examples.
And I think the other part, you know, JD, to speak to, you know, outside of just having the conversations with myself that make me hesitate, a lot of times I'm just like, I'm tired. I don't feel like it. And what I mean by I'm tired is
It takes
that,
a lot.
Right. Conversations take
bro.
a lot out of you.
Man.
Because you got to make sure you're framing it right. You got to do this. You got to do. I'm just like.
So I think we spoke about this before, but I'll bring it back up. Have y'all heard like that Nikki Giovanni conversation with
the old owner of the Clippers?
No.
Am I thinking of somebody?
No, Nikki Giovanni.
My man, I probably referenced the name off.
Nikki Giovanni and man, what's my man? He was like a writer, black guy. I am drawing a blank. Sorry, but they have a conversation. And you've probably seen the clip where she's just like, "Yo, lie to me."
Oh.
I forgot his name.
I haven't seen it.
So the clip is that she's bringing the parallel of like you've been lying to your coworkers and your boss all day. You at work and you smiling, you don't want to be there. You don't want to talk to your coworkers, but you doing it for professional courtesy. You're doing all of these things, but then you come home, you treat me like hell.
I would have said because I'm doing it for a check. Let's make sure you forget the most important part.
But that's
I get what you're
that's the part though. She's like, yo, you do all of this for them. You're outside and you put on this framework and this facade for everybody else. But then I come home and I'm supposed to be the love of your life, and I don't get that same treatment. You don't smile for me. You're always tired for me. But everybody else, you got all this energy for. So she was just saying like,
James Baldwin.
James Baldwin, thank you. So she was like, yo, lie to me. And like, you know, that in the context of the conversation makes sense. Like, of course, don't no black woman want to be lied to. We can cut that out right now. But you know what I'm saying?
That's number one.
That's number one. But I get what she's saying. It's just like, yo, extend the same courtesy to me that you extend to everybody else, right? Like, yeah, I know you're tired, but make time to not be tired for me, right? Like, you weren't tired all day, and you could have been tired all day, but you made time. You know what I'm saying? So
I ain't gonna lie, I've had that same flip conversation though come out of my lips. Like, you know, just the reality, especially living the life of kids and that type of thing, is it. You know, I've had to say like, hey, I don't want to be the back burner. I don't want to be the one that's like that has to suffer because of everything else. Like, and I get it. You know, I understand like, you know, certain struggles and certain things make life challenging. We all have felt beyond fatigue, beyond not in the moment. Like, want to just be quiet. I just want to be on my own. I don't want to be around anybody. Everybody has felt that way. But it's a real thing. It's like, if you look at the priority list, you never want to be on the bottom of it. It's just a reality, you know? Right. So, and you don't think you should have to, especially as a spouse, you know? So I get both sides of the conversation, you know? Because where it happens to us at work and in our busy lifestyles, it happens at home to a lot of wives and the kids and the stress of it. We talked about that a little bit last week too.
Yeah.
So yeah, man.
You know, I understand what they're saying, but I also want to understand some of it is a little unfair. And what I mean by that, well, maybe not unfair, but I think it also needs to be level set. You spend the most of your awake days at work. If you have kids, of course, you got to do the kids thing, you know, get them home, get them fed, get them all that stuff, and then get them into the bed. Then you have maybe a little time for one another. So I think it's already, I'm gonna say it this way, but I don't mean it the way it's coming out. It's already an unrealistic expectation to say, treat me like work. One, from a standpoint that there's not enough time in a day where you incorporate life and everything else. Once again, I do agree that life happens for that to happen. So I think you have to also frame it like, you know, for instance, I know me and you, we like to travel. So when we travel, a lot of times, you know, I am trying to focus on it. We're going to do whatever we're going to do. That is my way of pouring back into you. You know, yes, that might be depending on the year, depending on what life is, it might be far in between, but
this is our time.
That's our time. And so the way that you're framing it, those other times, is not, once again, a realistic expectation based off of the life because of decisions we made as a family.
So that's what I want to get back to, right? Because especially in this season that I'm in right now, I am spending, because of how life is set up for me now, where I don't have to like report to anywhere, I spend a lot of time with family, way more time than ever. You know what I'm saying? Like, but also like today, I give you an example for today. Today we dropped the kids off at school. Then we had to go and do some shopping for some vending machines, stock up a machine, and then like we just spent a lot of time together today, right? And in the past couple of months, I've been able to kind of look and see. It's so unfortunate, bro, because it's almost impossible to get away from it. But like, bro, we from the time we graduate college, we are in the hustle and bustle of life. And it's so crazy, bro, when you think about it. And I think a lot of it got to do with like living in America. And I don't want this to be a political conversation. Yeah. But bro, you got to just think about it, man. Like from the time we graduate college, we're on the prowl to like get a good job so we can get money, so we can acquire things. And the more things we acquire, the more money we got to make. So it means we got to work more. Then we want our kids to be in the best school. So we either got to pay for our kids to go to the best school, or we got to move into a zip code. Yeah. So our kids which costs what? More money. So now we got to work. We got to work harder. And then you hit 50 because we're at that point now we're at 40.
Yeah.
So which is technically midlife. Like I know we don't want to act like, but it is we in midlife now. Like we here, right? By statistical looking at it, right? You know what I'm saying? But you look at it, you hit 50 and like, bro, you spent the majority of your life just like hustle and bustle. And by 50, think about it, how old your kid's gonna be by the time you're 50. We're talking about 10 years from now.
Man, only one of them gonna be ready to graduate or graduating, I should say, and the other one's gonna be on the way in a year. So
you basically you're in
I'm
10
50
years
and I still got kids in the house.
You got kids in the house at 50, right? But you still your hustle and bustle ain't gonna stop 10 years from now. More than likely, right? You've gonna find.
But I got you. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But so I think a lot of it, man, it's just unfortunate, man, because I look at, I'll do some research and I'll look and I see like, okay, if you live in this country, you look at the cost of living in that country. You look at how they're living, like everything looks nice, but like their lifestyle costs $1,200 a month, and $1,200 a month for us is like, huh? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But I'm talking about their whole lifestyle, $1,200 a month. For us, that might be like a good mortgage if you depending on where you're staying at. But like their lifestyle is $1,200 a month. So you look, to put in comparison, like to make it easy for people, it's like people who grew up their whole life living in New York, and then they turn 25, 26 and decide to move to Atlanta, and they're like, hold up.
Yeah.
1,500 get me all this?
Yeah.
It's like that. But for us, we in America where like our hustle and bustle, but you go overseas and you looking like, man, these folks are thriving and their principles are completely different. You notice when you've been to, all of us been to Italy before, right? Or
I haven't been there.
but you've been to Barcelona.
Yeah.
So it's, you've been to Europe. All of us been to Europe. Life in Europe is what? Family.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll work a little bit, but then we're gonna come home. We're gonna be like, we're gonna eat with our family. We're gonna eat until like,
up at doing the
you know what I'm
thing.
saying? Like everything is surrounded by the family, so much to the point to where you don't even consider what work is. You don't consider work. You don't consider acquiring all of these things that in the grand scheme of things like don't mean nothing.
You can sum it up this way: they work to live. Not live to work.
Bam.
There's a difference.
And we stuck in that live to work.
We
bro.
stuck in it.
We stuck in it.
That is how our society economy is built. It's built on us to have to live to work. Unfortunately.
Let's leave it there.
Yeah.
Let's leave it there. We're going to go to Patreon, man. If y'all wanted to see us talk more about this and some other things, join our Patreon now. You can start off with a free trial, 7-day free trial, and then if you like what you got, go ahead and pay for the Patreon. But we appreciate y'all for tuning in anyway. This is the Black Man Think podcast. Make sure y'all like, subscribe, comment, do all of that cool stuff. But more importantly, make sure y'all tell a friend to tell a friend. This is the Black Man Think podcast, where we elevate our black men because black men be out here thinking. We'll see y'all next week.
Peace.
The Black Men Think podcast.